The Warriors blew a 31-point lead on the road and won the game. Draymond Green says Golden State does not win this contest last season. How did they get it done this time around? And why were the Rockets able to get back in? We're answering these questions on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, yo, what's going on, everyone? Charlie Walter here, formerly at 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, covered the Warriors there, and for CBS News Bay Area, which is KPIX in the Bay Area, saw the Warriors win the title run in 21-22, reporting for the team. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. You can visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We now have a newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage. It's delivered right to your inbox. It is free, and you can sign up at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com for the all-new Warriors newsletter. On today's show, we're bringing in Matt Kolsky. He's dealing with a little bit of sickness, a little bit of phlegm, but hey, as long as he can talk Golden State Warriors, we are good. And we have a lot to talk about because since the last time we spoke with y'all, the Warriors blew a 31-point lead to the Houston Rockets. Actually, after being up by 28 at half, I believe, ended up being down by 1 point for a cup of coffee in the second half, in the fourth quarter. Blew, a 6-point lead in the final 2 minutes or so of the game, yet somehow was able to win in overtime without Draymond Green. A lot of players stepped up. We're going to talk about why the Warriors were able to pull this one out, why the Rockets were able to get back in it, and Jonathan Kaminga, sixth man, so far, so good. Kolsky, my guy, Warriors were rolling. Wiggins was red hot early. They turned their first ball over up, I think 36-15. 36-15, Warriors are up. They finally turned it over. How in the hell were the Rockets able to get back in this game, first of all?
Well, listen, it's always easier to get back in the game against a Warriors team without Steph Curry than it is against a Warriors team with Steph Curry. I think just generally, they don't have go-to scorers, so they can go in scoring droughts, and that's what happened here. The defense didn't stop working. They were pretty. I mean, there were some mistakes. Don't get me wrong, but they were okay defensively. They started kicking the ball around, turning it over, and there was a stretch where they just couldn't find somebody to dribble the ball, including down the stretch of the game. I mean, you mentioned it, but just to quickly highlight, right? At 1:35, Jonathan Kaminga hit his second free throw to go up 6 points, 116-110 with 1:35 to go, right? From that point on, there were turnovers, there were missed free throws, there were weird, I don't even know what to call some of the plays that happened down the stretch. And then even with all that, with 8 seconds left, you have the ball up 2? That's a win. And yet, one of the most staggering turnovers I've ever seen. So look, I mean, they're short ball handlers. A lot of the problems were the problems you'd expect. So although you don't love blowing a 31-point lead, I think overall you feel really good about the fact that they were resilient enough to get the win. And then, look, Kaminga in overtime, he was just the best player on the floor.
He looked awesome, man. We're going to get into Kaminga and his role as sixth man right now. Draymond Green saying that it's a testament to his maturity, the fact that instead of pouting, he comes out and has his 3 best games of the season after being relegated to the bench. Gives him a spark, gives him different spacing, different lineup combinations. Steve Kerr knows what he's doing. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason, and he's trying to push the buttons in different ways. But when you look at how this game started for Golden State, it was a laugher. They were running Houston out of the gym. I thought Andrew Wiggins looked like that second scorer that we've talked about all season. He came out assertive off the injury after missing a couple of games, was aggressive, was not hesitating with a hand in his face on threes, knocking him down, hit a step back. He had 10 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. And I'm like, all right, Wiggins is here. He only finished with 15. So that's kind of how the Warriors are this season, right? You get spurts of Buddy Hield. He hits 6 more 3-pointers in the game for 27 points. But down the stretch, it didn't feel like we saw a ton of Buddy Hield. It was Brandon Pajemski, who had 12 and hit some huge buckets down the stretch. It was Kaminga, who finished with 23, second on the team, got to the line 10 times and hit 7 of his free throws. Draymond Green, a double-double with 14 points and 11 rebounds. So it's just right now like attrition for the Warriors. Who are you going to stop? How are you going to stop them consistently? When someone goes cold, who is it that's going to pick you up? Now, the issue was they went cold for 6 minutes. They went 6 minutes in the fourth quarter without scoring a field goal, allowed Houston to creep back within 10, and it's like, okay, 31's gotten down to 10. This is a little too close for comfort. Next thing you know, with 5 minutes to go in the game, Golden State's losing by 1. Draymond Green said last year's team would have 1,000% lost this game. You give up a 31-point lead on the road, a 28-point lead at halftime, morale is crushed. How do you bounce back and finish this thing off? And what they did in this game was just rely on numbers. They went to the hot hand. They spread the wealth. They took pretty good shots at the end of the game, and it was not a thing of beauty. Tari Eason did everything he could to keep Houston in the game. But when it came down to it, you're almost in hindsight glad that the Warriors did blow that lead and was able to pull it out, because you learn a lot more about your team than had they just skated to a win like they did in Portland and Utah.
I agree with that. I think this is a much more telling victory than it would have been had they just walked away with it. And to your point, the guys who made the big plays down the stretch are the young guys. I mean, Pajemski, first of all, everything they did in the fourth quarter and overtime was basically one-on-one basketball. It was finding a matchup they liked, which is not usually how the Warriors play, but you could tell they were just, I mean, they were dragging. They had just been outscored by 30 points over the course of a half, and they just needed somebody to bail them out. And that was Brandon Pajemski down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Just the way he can wiggle and worm his way through to near the basket and get a shot off is very impressive. It's a real talent. And then Kaminga in overtime just said, you know what, I'm too much for you guys. And both of those things are super encouraging just in general. But the fact that they each did those things in critical moments when if they hadn't made those shots, maybe the Warriors lose the game, that makes you feel really good about those two young guys being a big part of what's happening this year.
It's interesting how Steve Kerr's mixed up the lineups. Moses Moody gets 17 minutes in the game. Trace Jackson-Davis only 13. Looney picks up some of the slack there and plays 21 minutes as compared to Jackson-Davis's 13. And then Lindy Waters, once again, gets 17 minutes in the game. So I don't know if this changes when Steph Curry gets back, but Wiggins was inserted into the lineup. You have an extra body, and Steve Kerr's still running Lindy Waters out there. Waters, 1 of 4 in the game, 2 points.
Not his best game, but I'm shocked at how capable Lindy Waters is just as an all-around player. It's, you know, he was essentially an afterthought to me anyway, apparently not to Mike Dunleavy, but to me, he was an afterthought addition. You know, I did not think we'd see. Yeah. And so the fact that he seems like such a perfect fit as a defender and ball mover. I mean, look, he's a good 3-point shooter, and that's the skill that got him to the NBA. And if he ever has a, you know, significant career, that's going to be his primary skill. But for this team, being able to defend at a high level at 6'6" and being able to be like a really functional cog in the ball movement offense, that's stuff that you don't usually see in a 13th man on the roster. I mean, it's just not normal. Yes, it's obvious when he hits 5 threes, he's playing well, but I've been super impressed with the things he does when he's not shooting it that still help this team out. I think they have a real find in Lindy Waters.
At one point in the game, my lasting memory of Jonathan Kaminga was arguably the worst 3-point attempt I've ever seen in my life. And those that watch the game know what I'm talking about. I mean, forget just, you know, building the house of bricks. That thing was a missile off the backboard.
There were a few from both teams in this game that were like, like I was afraid it was coming out of the TV to get me after the way it bounced off the rim.
It was scary stuff, but hey, by the end of the game, the only people scared were the Houston Rockets of Kaminga's performance. 6th man of the year. I know it's early, and who knows if he's even going to be a six-man moving forward when Steph Curry and DeAnthony Melton return to the lineup. But as of right now, he is a spark off the bench. It seems to be working well. Let's debate why that is. Coming up on Locked On Warriors. Now's a good time to tell you about one of our sponsors. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's a great time for gratitude. It's Men's Mental Health Month, Movember, where you grow the mustaches, things like that. I'm thankful for a lot of people in my life. Kolsky, I know you're not on the screen right now, but I'm thankful for you, man, that you get to hop on and talk Warriors basketball. I thought after, our 95-7 the day days games, 95-7 the game days.
Well done.
Thank you. It took a minute there. Take 3. I didn't know if we'd be doing this, but here we are, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. And sometimes when you go into therapy, you get to open up and talk about things you're appreciative that maybe get lost in translation in your everyday life, and you realize through therapy and through meditation, through all these different things, that we are blessed beyond belief. Just being here on this earth is a miracle, folks. It's a miracle. So we need to remind ourselves sometimes. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. If you fill out a brief questionnaire, you'll get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Jonathan Kaminga for the Golden State Warriors, off the bench, 23 points in the game. And I know you got kind of the splits on when he started scoring, when he really picked it up for Golden State, but 7 of 12 from the floor, was 2 of 3 from deep. I mentioned the three-pointer that he missed was not a thing of beauty, but when he was in rhythm, starts knocking them down, hits 70% of his free throws, 7 of 10. Now that's kind of a glaring weakness all game for Golden State, who went 32 of 50 from the line. That's 64%. Amazing job at attacking the basket, creating contact, and getting to the charity stripe. But you got to be better than 64%. I mean, we got, high schools. Pittsburgh High School is knocking down 64%. Come on now. I
didn't know you were such a diehard Pittsburgh High School fan, but yeah, that's good for them. I want to focus on the positive aspect. Look, missing 18 free throws in an NBA basketball game is a disaster. But shooting 50 free throws for the Golden State Warriors is a rare, spectacular example. Yeah. This has been a team that's struggled to get to the three-point line. And you mentioned, a lot of people did it tonight, right? Looney shot 8 or last night. Looney shot 8 free throws. Draymond shot 9 free throws. Also missed 4. But the guys that, if you asked me before the game, right, who were the guys that can make it happen in terms of getting to the line, it's Kaminga and Wiggins. And the fact that they both went to the line 10 times in that game, it really does tell you how aggressive this team was being. And look, without Steph Curry, that's what it's going to be all night. Attack, attack, attack on both ends of the floor. That's how they're going to win. And look, if they had made their free throws tonight, that comeback probably never happens.
To run through how Draymond was talking about Jonathan Kaminga and his bench role in the post-game press conference, he basically said, if anyone is happy to run to the bench, then I don't want him anywhere near my team, because everyone wants to start in the NBA. You don't want to come off the bench. But it says a lot about his maturity. It says a lot about his maturity that he is able to stay up, wait for his opportunity in 26 minutes, come out there when he has the opportunity and stay aggressive, because that's what he did. Turned it over 4 times, which tells you that he was very aggressive with the basketball. Every time he had it in his hands, he was looking to do something with it, because he knows that without Steph Curry, someone's got to make some plays. And I mentioned it was Wiggins early that looked like he was going to be that alpha in the game. And then Buddy Hield, of course, has his flurry, which he does. I mean, 6 more threes from Buddy Hield. Let's first mention the fact that it took the Warriors 36 games last year to have a player not named Steph Curry to score more than 27 points 3 times. Buddy Hield's done it in 6 games. So Buddy Hield can score. We found his role for this team. As of right now, That second scorer that was so important this offseason, that was such a contentious talking point, and the Warriors would have to make this trade for Robin, this and that. As of right now, we found it in Buddy Hield. Now, the dribbling's not always a thing of beauty. They mentioned that on the broadcast. They said, Buddy, just let it fly.
Just shoot.
Don't try to do too much with it. But when it comes
and I thought Kalena made the point, like, stop putting him in situations where he's got a handle against pressure. That is on the coaching staff to a degree.
Yeah, Pajemski had some moments too with the ball in his hands where he's gonna be in point guard, an all-star level point guard, like Joe Lacob believes he can be. And maybe he slots him into the shooting guard in his all-star projection, but he's got to be a better ball handler in general. Yeah. He's got to tighten it up a little bit, but he's 21. He's got time.
Yeah. And they're missing Melton right now. They're just missing that extra handler.
Also very young. Comes off the bench and scores 23 points in the game, 7 of 12 shooting. 6 rebounds. That's a telling stat for Kaminga. I mean, over 5.5. When Kaminga's hitting the glass for 6 in 26 minutes, he's active. And when he's getting to the line 10 times, I mean, I don't even want to say self-described, but I think anyone watching the show knows that Matt Kolsky loves a little Jonathan Kaminga.
Yeah.
What do you think about him coming off the bench? Is this something that you could see long-term, or is this just kind of to figure out some rotations until Steph gets back?
If long-term is the rest of the year, sure. I don't care much whether he's starting. I think the key thing for Kaminga is who he's playing with. And right now, Steve Kerr's found better combinations for him with bench units than he was. It was pretty clear that big starting lineup they went with the first few games didn't quite fit right. And I think they did it because they believed those are the 5 best players on the team, right? They believed these are our 5 best talents. And I think they're probably right? Steph, Wiggins, Kaminga, Draymond, and I don't know, maybe Trace is different, but he's the center, right? They wanted to play with a center so that Draymond didn't have to do that from the start of every game. And the other 4 are kind of your best 4. But if that best 4 doesn't fit together, as it seemed not to in the first few games, then find different combinations. We knew from preseason combinations was going to be a keyword all year long, right? And the combinations Steve Kerr has found for Kaminga the last few nights have been ones that allow him the space to attack, that provide some other shooting. Because one thing that I don't think we've talked much about is Kaminga is a very good drive and kick player. And he's not a selfish guy when he drives the lane. There were plenty of times last night where he attacked and then passed out to an open shooter. So these are better combinations. And if it takes coming off the bench to get into better combinations for Kaminga, so be it. I don't think anybody should care about it. And like Draymond said, be mad you're not starting, but use that as fuel, not as crankiness.
How about the Golden State Warriors getting 5 points in this game, plus 160? I mean, when are the odds makers going to learn, man? When are they going to learn? If you didn't hop on that spread and you like a little free cheese every once in a while, what are you thinking, man? I mean, that's so favorable. And I know they almost potentially blew it. The plus 5 was never in question, really.
No.
But the fact that the Warriors are still getting points against Houston just goes to show that still at 5-1, with Steph Curry, without Steph Curry, not a lot of people believe in these teams.
It takes a minute, right? It takes a minute for the gambling, for the lines to respond to the results instead of just being preseason predictions. Also, you still look at the paper before the game and say, no Steph Curry, the Rockets are pretty good. This is a tough one, right? That's in Houston. So it's a great win for a team without its best player. And then I think the other part of it is something we're going to keep talking about until, like, when is it now? Thursday or something? Until they play the best teams in the league, not everyone is going to jump on board with the Warriors' hot start. There's going to be a crew that says, okay, but who have you played, until they play somebody. And that doesn't mean they have to beat the Celtics this week to, get to start giving points to bad teams. I guarantee they'll be favorites in Washington. But there's going to be a wait and see with the Warriors from the NBA world until they start playing some better teams, which is very soon. They have arguably the 3 best teams in the league coming up after they play the worst team.
Yeah, forget just the Celtics. 2 undefeated teams coming up. Hopefully the Warriors will have a chance to knock them out of the unbeaten ranks when they take on the Cleveland Cavs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Full breakdown of the schedule coming up. Jordan Poole, the pool party, back against the Golden State Warriors, back against his guy, Andrew Wiggins. Let's discuss that coming up on Locked On Warriors. Let's tell you about another one of our sponsors. It is FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5. You get $150 free in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. It's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play. You can do so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. That's if you win that first $5 bet. You can do it on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's do it again, Kolsky. Against the Houston Rockets on Saturday, November 2nd, the Golden State Warriors were +5. They were +160. Hey, Vegas,
Keep it.
keep some of those points. Warriors win, Warriors cover. If you want to make some Warriors bets, do it on FanDuel.com. State Warriors schedule coming up. It gets a little more difficult because the teams that they've played are all near the bottom of the league, pretty much right now. I mean, you got the Clippers that are out of the play-in tournament right now. You have the Blazers and the Jazz near the bottom of the league. The Pelicans would be the 9 or 10 seed right now if the season were to end today. And then Houston is right around that 9 or 10 mark as well. So as of right now, yeah, you play who you play on your schedule. Warriors have handled most of these games and have done half of them without Steph Curry, but it picks up in a hurry. Let's start with the Washington Wizards on the 4th. That is Monday. Then it's at Boston on Wednesday, at Cleveland, undefeated Cleveland, who just took down the Milwaukee Bucks on a walk-off winner from Donovan Mitchell. They have some talent. That game is on Friday. Then another undefeated team on Sunday in the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then it's the return of Klay Thompson and the in-season tournament, the Dallas Mavericks. That is on Tuesday. Then it's the Grizzlies. Then it's the Clippers, who you've already lost to. That right there is, 6 games in a row that are extremely challenging games, top to bottom. But first, you get the Washington Wizards. You get Jordan Poole, who's averaging over 20 points a game. How quickly we forget how good Jordan Poole is at scoring. Warriors, obviously, him and Draymond Green just could not have coexisted. That was made very evident in the last series, or I guess second to last series, that Jordan Poole played in the playoffs against the Sacramento Kings, when Draymond went to dap him up, I think, and Poole just kind of shrugged him off, went to the bench. Curry went over to him and he said, "What are you doing, man? Not cool." At that point, you knew the two couldn't coexist, and there was probably a trade coming. But the Warriors fans out there that think like, hey, just dump Jordan Poole, he's not worth any money, I think that that's a little asinine. He is a good player, and I think Warriors are going to see that on Monday, that Poole's someone that can light you up for 25 points any given night. You excited to see him play again?
He can light you up for 40. He's an electric scorer, and he is flame-throwing so far this season. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be the focus from the defense. That being said, he's not a winning player right now. He's not.
Championship, man. The people that say you can't win a championship.
I'm not saying you can't win a championship with Jordan Poole. I am saying he is not playing winning basketball right now. I was listening to somebody talk about this. It was Draymond and Baron Davis. And Baron Davis said, I don't think Jordan Poole knows the score of the game. And that's how I feel. He is electric. And he's capable of playing on a championship team. We know that. But right now, he's out there to get buckets and not much else. And that, just as that is dangerous for your defense, it gives you opportunities on the other end of the floor. So I expect the Warriors to take advantage of Jordan Poole. I really do. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to defend him. You absolutely have to defend him, but I think they're going to target him as well. The Wizards generally, they're just not good. You know, I know they've won 2 games. They were both against the Atlanta Hawks, who are also bad. They just got beat in Mexico City, so they're also coming. They just played a technical home game in Mexico City. Like, they're teed up for you. The Wizards are teed up for you, and if the Warriors do not win that game, it is because they did not focus enough, period.
It's like a Northern California reunion, whether it's Sacramento, because they got Bagley on the team.
Yeah.
Scored 0 points in his last outing. That I think it's safe to say that Marvin Bagley is officially a bust.
It's a real grab bag of other people's cast offs.
Baldwin Jr., Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah. Yep.
They have Alex Sarr, who was, was
number 2
in
the draft. Yep.
I had 17 in his last game. He's averaging 9. Keyshawn George, Corey Kispert's someone that can, flame throw a little bit. But you're right, man. They're not good. This is a game that I would say Steph Curry probably doesn't play. Now, he's being reevaluated as this podcast is being recorded on Sunday, and we'll see. But it sounds like everything is trending in the right direction. You would have to imagine that they just sit Curry out on Monday because it's the Wizards. You expect to win without him. You figure out what some of your other guys are capable of. You run it back one more game without Curry, and then he's back on Wednesday in Boston. That would be the smart move to me. But if he's healthy, I mean, he's already rested up for 3 games. Maybe we do see him out there against the Washington Wizards. But there's no reason that this game should really be close. I mean, the Warriors have been taking care of business against teams that are not as good as them. The Wizards aren't just as good as the Warriors. They are, like you said, they're a lottery team. They're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, and I will just say, I'm with you. Seems like the obvious thing to say, you know what, Steph, take an extra couple days, get ready for Boston. Historically, if they clear Steph Curry, it has been very hard to keep Steph Curry off the floor. So we'll see what happens today. But he's going to fight to play if the medical staff clears him. So that'll be interesting. And honestly, maybe 20 minutes against Sacramento wouldn't be the worst thing. Or I'm sorry, against Washington wouldn't be the worst thing to get ready for a big game against the Celtics. And not just a big game against the Celtics, a big stretch. Like you said, you could easily make the argument that at least right now, Boston, Cleveland, OKC are the best 3 teams in the NBA. And they get them right in a row on the road. So that's going to be a gauntlet. And look, I don't think,
stick, baby. It's a measuring stick. That's what that is.
And if assuming they beat Washington, dangerous, but assuming they beat Washington, I don't think you'll be upset if that's a 1-2 stretch, provided they show they can compete with each of those teams every night. What I don't want to see in those 3 games is a team that looks overmatched. Like, if you drop games to Boston, to OKC, to Cleveland even, I get it. These are good teams. That's what happens. 1-2, 2-1, fine. But just look like you belong. That's what I want to see from the Warriors during this first really tough stretch, is look like you're one of the teams that's part of a tough stretch, not just a team that's a tier below.
All right, going live after the Wizards game on Monday, so you can catch us on YouTube. Also, the morning after, wherever you get your favorite audio podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Google, we'll be there for you. We also have that team newsletter, Locked On Warriors. It's free. It'll be delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up at lockedondaily.com. Start your day with the free Locked On Warriors team newsletter. Hey, man, for all the texting you gave me about how awful you feel, I saw the mute button hit a couple times, a few coughing off screen, but you sounded good. You put together a clean show, and good work. Good work. This is what we do, man. We power through the elements.
Right. Good work by you, too. Just a couple of sick guys doing a podcast and knocking it out.
That time of the year, man. That time of the year. Locked On Warriors, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're here delivering Warriors content Monday through Friday and after games. Peace.
Let's go.